Good evening, and welcome to Pathways and Provocations. Tonight we're diving into one of those questions that always stirs something up in the magical world. Is there such a thing as right or wrong magic? Now, depending on your path, you might already have a firm answer. Or maybe this question makes you a little uncomfortable. That's okay. Tonight isn't about drawing hard lines or making moral judgments, it's about exploration. About giving ourselves permission to pause and look at our magical practice through a more thoughtful lens. So let's get into it. To even begin this discussion, we have to ask, what do we mean when we say something is right or something is wrong? In Wicca, many people lean on the Wiccan Rede, and "it harm none, do you as you will." We've all heard it. That one line carries a lot of weight. It suggests that if you're not harming anyone, then your magic is ethical. But that phrase isn't a law, it's a guideline, a principle. And not everyone in the pagan or magical community follows the Rede or Wicca at all. Some people base their magical ethics on the idea of balance. Others follow traditions that teach reciprocity or even retribution. And then there are those who rely purely on their own personal morality, what feels right or wrong in the moment. So when we ask, is this spell right or wrong, what we're really asking is, according to whose rules? Because let's be honest, there are spells that sound harmless until you dig into them. And there are others that sound harsh but might serve a deeper justice. Let's look at a few examples that tend to stir up this particular debate. So love spells come immediately to mind, especially the ones aimed at a specific person. Are you trying to create a connection, or are you trying to override someone's free will? It's a fine line to walk. What about hexes and curses? Some say they're inherently negative. Others say they're essentially tools for protection or accountability. And then there are money spells. They seem innocent, just asking the universe for abundance, right? But have you ever stopped to wonder where that money is going to come from? Who has to give it up so you can have it? And then there are healing spells. What if the person didn't ask? What if they don't want to be healed? Are we helping or are we intruding? Again, a fine line. So let me tell you something from my own experience. Years ago, when I was fairly new to the craft, I cast a spell, a prosperity spell, for someone close to me, without asking first. I thought I was doing something kind and supportive, but a few weeks later, their life turned completely upside down. New job, sure, yeah, they were offered a new job, but it required a cross-country move they weren't ready for. The fallout was messy, emotional, and honestly not what I'd envisioned. That experience taught me something important. Intent is only part of the equation. So let's talk about that. Intention. It's a word we use a lot in witchcraft. As long as your intention is always pure, we say. Yes, intention matters. It shapes the energy, it sets the tone, it defines your magical focus. But it doesn't erase consequences. You can light a candle with the most loving intent and still end up burning the house down if you're not paying attention. Impact matters. Collateral effects matter. It's not always about whether your spell worked. It's about what changed and who had to carry the weight of that change. So maybe the real question is, can your magic be right if the results cause harm you didn't exactly foresee? And what do you do if it does? So add another layer to this. Context. Different traditions hold different values. In some systems, cursing is not seen as inherently bad. It's a sacred act of justice. In others, it's completely taboo. What might feel wrong from your perspective could be standard practice somewhere else. And what you see as harmless might be deeply offensive in another magical culture. That's why it's so important to recognize that magical ethics are not fixed. They evolve. They adapt. They are shaped by culture, experience, intention, When we talk about right and wrong, we have to be willing to say, this might be right for me, but not for you. And that's okay, as long as we're both acting with awareness. Regardless of your tradition or path, one thing holds true. With great power comes great responsibility. I know, but it's true. Magic is not a toy. It's not a way to shortcut life. It's not a vending machine that spits out results without consequence. It's a relationship between you, your intention, and the forces you're working with. So, I'd encourage you to ask yourself, why am I casting this spell? What need is it addressing? Who else might be impacted? And have I truly considered the ripple effect? These questions aren't meant to shame or stop you. They're meant to empower you, to bring your magic into alignment with your deepest values. Because the most powerful magic comes from a place of integrity and clarity, not impulse. So here's something I've come to believe. Every spell we cast reflects something back to us. It's a mirror. It shows us what we want, what we fear, what we value, and sometimes what we're trying to avoid. So instead of asking, is this magic right or wrong, maybe ask, what does this spell say about me, and am I comfortable with the answer? What story am I writing with my magic? And is that the story I want to live in? These questions don't have easy answers, and they're certainly not meant to. They're meant to provoke, to stretch, to help you grow into a more conscious practitioner. So is there such a thing as right or wrong magic? I don't have a real universal answer. I don't think anyone does. But I do believe we each have a responsibility to define those terms for ourselves and to revisit them as we grow. Because what felt right 5 years ago might not feel the same today. And that's okay. That's part of the path. So here's what I'll leave you with tonight. If you had a spell that would guarantee the outcome you wanted, but it would hurt someone else, would you do it? Is it worth it? And more importantly, what would your answer say about the kind of witch you are becoming? I would love to hear your thoughts on this one. Let's open the conversation to the comments below. Do you have a personal magical code? And how have your views shifted over time? Let's share, challenge, and grow together. Until next time, walk your path with power, question everything, and as always, blessed be.